Today on What's Next.
That's why we should meet, because we're going to be competitive.
Oh, I'd like to be.
I'm going to beat the devil out of you.
The health and the well-being side of it is a big component of this. It is a competition, yes, but the social interaction for people, the mental, the physical are so important for people as they're aging.
I can't imagine living without swimming, not so much for the physical part. I mean, the physical part, yes, but what it does for me mentally and emotionally and even spiritually.
Hello and welcome to What's Next. It's our little show that's filled with positivity and inspiration and motivation to help all of us answer the important question of what's next in our lives. I'm Mark Middleton, happy to be hanging here at Growing Bolder XQ with my pals Amy Sweezy, Billy Schaefer, George Diaz, and Cecily Wilson. And today's show is really all about getting and staying active no matter what your age is, because it's never too late and it's never too soon to get started. So what do you say we start with a little trip around the horn here? George, let's start with you. What's your favorite way to stay active these days?
Well, after years of playing flag football, I finally hung up my cleats, and now my go-to jam is martial arts, mostly forms like Tai Chi. It's good for the mind, body, and soul. I love it.
And I am super fortunate because I live in a neighborhood that butts right up against a walking and bike trail. So I just feel like I'm really fortunate to have a place to walk all the time. My friend Michelle and I meet on the trail. We go for walks. Mostly it started in the pandemic because we decided that was much better than meeting for happy hour anyway.
This is a pretty intimidating panel here, so I'm going to step up for the weekend lawn mowers who get out there and push the mower around, because really I do. It's the biggest sweat I work up in a week. Washing the car, stuff like that, it's still exercise and it's still activity. So there's my thing.
Okay, well, I think I probably have you guys all beat, because I'm doing not only cardio, but I am also doing fast-paced walking. I go right into the mall and I'm going in and out of those stores, getting those bags, lifting them up. So that cardio workout is really intense. But I am actually doing walking around the neighborhood as well.
And it shows, Cecily. I think, as you guys know, I like to swim. I swim 3 days a week. I do run a little bit on the weekends, but Bill, based upon what you're about to show us, I think I'm going to start running a little bit more.
And Mark, that's a great point. And listen, these days there really are no excuses for not finding something to keep you moving. And you're ready for another one of those mind-blowing examples? This is Diane Friedman at the Michigan Senior Olympics. Look for her. She's at the rear of the pack here. See if you can find her, because she's running against younger runners in this heat. She is 100 years old, and you're watching her break the world record in the 100-meter run in the 100 to 104-year-old age group. Did you even know there was one? But wait, there's more. She also set a new world record in the 200 meters, and she set a U.S. record throwing the javelin. Yeah, 100 years old. And what other program would show you that? And then go the next step and get her on with her trainer and the person whose record she broke, 105-year-old Julia Hurricane Hawkins. But that's just Mark Middleton. And here's the reaction when he asked who would win if the two took each other on.
Oh, I think she'd win.
No. And that's why we should meet. That's why we should meet, because we're going to be competitive.
Oh, I'd like to be.
I'm going to beat the devil out of you.
So if you haven't noticed, Diane, when the gun goes off, she has this thing where she is the ultimate competitor. She just her body knows when the gun goes off, that means race. And I assume the same for you, Julia. So it'll be fascinating to see the two of you together.
Oh, it's something about wanting to win that just gets in your blood.
Do you believe that? Do you believe what we just saw in all of human history? Has there ever been an interview between two runners, both over 100 years old, talking about being competitive? Mark, that was incredible, a huge moment. So, Mark, what do you think? What do you think the message is? What should we take away from what those two were doing?
Well, I think there's a lot of them, and I'm sure we're going to hear. Number one, we're never too old to trash talk, Bill. So, keep your trash talking game up. But secondly, I'm going to leave the running out of it altogether because I'm sure others are going to mention that. This was two women, both over the age of 100. Meeting for the very first time in an online video chat. A wonderful example of the power of technology to keep us connected, especially as we age. I think that was really the magic of that moment for me. George, what about you?
Well, I love the trash talking. I mean, if I saw those two next to me in a lane, I think I'd just leave because I think I'd be scared out of my wits to try to race against them. But what I drew from that is just inspirational. It's just wonderful to see the competitive spirit that they have, that they are pushing their limits and going where a lot of people their age are certainly not doing that. I found it so inspiring. Great job.
Yeah, George, I kind of felt like the competitive spirit that they have, it was a positive thing. I think so many times we see competition as being negative. I'm going to beat you and all that trash talk, but they were so happy and positive, and I feel like good sportsmanship really plays into their competitive spirit. Cecily, what about you?
No, I'm here for the trash talking. Like literally, I love the smack. I'm gonna beat your butt on that. Right? I love that. But just to know that at that age, that they're still going strong. I want to be able to do that when I'm 104 years old, ready to kick your butt on that track. Let's go. Let's go.
Cecily's kind of scaring me too. I don't know what to think of that. But
I don't want to race her either.
Yeah. One big point is that you got to get there first, right? So how are we going to get to 100? And I think one of the things that stops us, speaking for myself, is when we make excuses. My knees hurt, my back hurts, I don't feel so well this morning. I would rather stay home, have some ice cream and watch TV sitting on the couch. Once we convince ourselves to stop making excuses, and there are a million good ones, and we get out there and stay active and do things, it makes life more fun, it makes life more exciting, we become more involved, and chances are we're pretty healthier at the same time.
It does make a lot of optimism that there is so many opportunities, as we've mentioned before, that to make the rest of your life the best of your life.
I'm Amy Sweezy from Growing Boulder. Are you a caregiver? Before you answer, know that most of us only think of caregiving in terms of the elderly. But really, when it comes to caregiving, there are only 4 types of people in the world. Those who have been caregivers, those who are caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need a caregiver. At Growing Boulder, we understand how important caregiving is in today's world, and so do our partners at Florida Blue Medicare in educating and assisting with the ins and outs of caregiving. Florida Blue Medicare is more than just health insurance. They want to help you live a healthy life, but also a better life. And that includes supporting your caregiving journey. Growing Boulder and Florida Blue Medicare created an entire ebook dedicated to the topic of caregiving. It's packed with information to support anyone who is a caregiver. It includes tips for self-care, caregiving in the age of COVID, and some discussion starters from the Conversation Project, which can help begin the discussion about end-of-life matters. There is also a worksheet to help with decisions setting up a personal caregiving team. At growingboulder.com/Medicare, you'll also find our 90-minute Art of Caregiving Summit created in collaboration with Florida Blue Medicare. It features several of their healthcare experts. Other tools include tips on caring for caregivers from dementia expert Teepa Snow and tips for caregivers to cope with the pandemic. To download our caregiving ebook, watch the online summit, or learn more about our partnership with Florida Blue Medicare, visit growingboulder.com/Medicare.
Welcome back to What's Next as we continue our dive today into masters or senior sports. And speaking of what's next for thousands of athletes all over the age of 50, we are getting closer every day now to the 2022 National Senior Games, which will be in Fort Lauderdale. I had a chance to sit down with the National Senior Games Association CEO, Mark Riker, to talk about the many ways that these senior games are now impacting lives all across our country.
You know, the health and the well-being side of it is a big component of this. It is a competition, yes, but the social interaction for people, the mental, the physical are so important for people as they're aging. And people are becoming much more aware and in tune to that stuff. And they're looking for things and opportunities to better themselves, to live a life that's great quality of life for them and their friends and their relatives. And that's what we want to provide, that opportunity. As we always say, we're about the fun, we're about the fitness, and we're about fellowship.
Does it make you more optimistic about your future as you age?
When I see folks that, I talk to and you walk away and like, wait a second, that person was just 95 years of age. And they're so in tune with what's going on in society and they're living such a full life that it does make a lot of optimism that there is so many opportunities, as we've mentioned before, that, to make the rest of your life the best of your life.
Well, there you go. Mark Riker from the NSGA, Bill, stealing one of our cut lines. But, it's great to see it and it's great to hear it. The National Senior Games, folks, really are a special treat that can inspire you in so many different ways. And Bill, as you know, we really had a blast covering the most recent National Senior Games back in 2019 in Albuquerque, being inspired by all of those athletes. What's something that you still remember today? What's a feeling that you still have today from our experience there a couple of years ago?
Well, that woman we just talked to a little while ago, 105-year-old Julia Hawkins, Mark, when you walked up to her with the microphone and the cameraman behind you and wanted to ask, she was so touched by your attention, by the questions that you asked, by the way you treated this 100-year-old woman. I can't imagine her. If she shows up at 105, that's a whole new age group, isn't it? 105 to 109, it's incredible.
I just miss the fact, I miss the buzz, I miss the energy. This is the ultimate melting pot of diversity. Men and women of all ages, all types, all colors, all sizes, all abilities, sharing really one thing, and that's just a passion to be together and celebrate health and well-being. And I get really jazzed over that. So I'm looking forward to going back to Fort Lauderdale.
I'm not so much on the training part, but I love the feeling after. That's what I craved, was the feeling after when I was training for the Olympics, and that's the feeling I have now. I mean, I just love the feeling after I've done that activity.
Gene Statler is the Chief Executive Officer of the Alliance for Lifetime Income, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating all Americans about the value and the importance of having protected lifetime income. I see that you've recently launched a new initiative that you're calling Peak 65. Tell us about that, Gene. Why is that important, and what do you mean when you say Peak 65?
What's happening with Peak 65 is more people in 2024 will turn 65 than ever in our history of the United States. And so you have this growing group of people who have self-invested and self-funded their retirement through 401ks. The pensions were kind of a little bit with the boomer generation, but more prevalent with our parents and the generations before that. So we really do everyone needs to think in terms of, what are my income needs? How am I going to make ends meet? And plan for living a long life.
What's too early for them to consider an annuity?
Good. I think it's never too early. An annuity is very much like Social Security. It's something that you contribute to for a set period of time. And then when you choose to retire, it's something that provides income for the rest of your life. It's very similar to that. It's a financial product. It's provided by an insurance company, so it has guarantees to it, just like life insurance. And it provides protected income in retirement. Part of it can't be touched, and that's the insurance side of it. And there are a lot of products out there that allow that investment, if you will, to grow with the market, but not to lose when the market dips.
You can learn more about the Alliance for Lifetime Income by going to protectedincome.org and start planning for your future today. This episode of What's Next is focused on the fun and the many benefits of organized sports as we age. Our friend and our Growing Boulder colleague, Rowdy Gaines, knows that better than almost anybody. The three-time Olympic gold medalist joined me for the first ever episode of Growing Boulder's new podcast, which is called Fountain of Youth, which will debut soon on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, and more. In fact, here's a snippet just for you of our conversation in which Rowdy shared the many ways that swimming has changed his life.
It's unbelievable, man. I'm telling you, I can't imagine living without swimming. Not so much for the physical part. I mean, the physical part, yes, but what it does for me mentally and emotionally and even spiritually. I know that sounds a little corny, but I really think that physical activity, mental activity, but physical activity especially, for me anyway, helps me in so many different ways. I don't like pain. It's to say, I'll go back to when I was training for the Olympics. I'm not so much on the training part, but I love the feeling after. You know, that's what I craved, was the feeling after when I was training for the Olympics, and that's the feeling I have now. I mean, I just love the feeling after I've done that activity. In master swimming and that senior age group, a lot of it is the camaraderie too. What brings us together is the love of what we're doing.
Well, there is no question there is little that is as powerful and as potentially life-changing as the kind of shared passions that Rowdy mentioned. We did talk to Rowdy about the lessons that he learned from the Tokyo Olympics recently, how the Rowdy Cam, did you see that, how that was started, and more of his personal stories about how staying active has actually changed his entire life. Check out the entire conversation with Rowdy on our Fountain of Youth podcast, which is coming soon to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many other platforms. In the meantime, stay with us, because after this short break, we are sharing the biggest life lessons that we've all learned from sports right here on What's Next.
Be sure to follow Growing Boulder on all our social channels so that you can chat with us and be part of our community every week. Now, we recently asked our followers, what is one life lesson that you've learned from sports? Mimi says, winners never cheat and cheaters never win. I wonder if that Mimi was my mom. It sounds like my mom. Joan also says, we learn how to lose with grace, or we should learn how to lose with grace. And for Barry, he learned to never give up. Roseanne got strangely specific but highly practical when she answered, when your toddler wanders onto the tennis court as you're about to serve, don't accidentally hit him on the head with your tennis racket. I think the most important lessons that I've learned from sports are persistence and discipline. I mean, success rarely, if ever, comes easily, quickly, or just randomly. It's really the result of regular, focused effort. So, George, what about you? What's a lesson that you've learned from sports?
Well, covering boxing for a long time, the lesson I learned is you get back off the canvas. You lose, you get back up, you live for another game, another day. And by the same token, you keep things in perspective if you win, because you can't get too high on yourself.
I think what I've learned is that you cannot win alone, no matter what it is. I didn't play sports, but my children played sports, and my husband was a professional ball player. And so I realized that you cannot take a win without having a team.
You know, what I have learned from sports is the importance of focus, the ability to really drill down on technique, drill down on execution, and be able to just figure out what it is that can make you perform better. And, you know, it's something that I think about almost every day.
And I love that, Mark. And for me, the whole thing is being a good teammate, because that's important in anything you do in life. You have to be accountable to others, whether it's your coach or the other guys on the team, the other people, or the position that you're playing. You have responsibilities. You've got to learn to be accountable, to be a great teammate. And if you're a great teammate, everyone will want to be with you.
Bill, you make a great point, and I think speaking for all of us, you are a great teammate. And while we all love organized sports for the many social benefits, you really don't need to be on a team or really participate in any competitions. In fact, you don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to aspire to win a medal or a ribbon or set a record, but you should, folks. You should find something that you enjoy that keeps you moving, because life is movement and movement is function, and function is the key to always having a what's next. We'll see you next time.